Hello and welcome to my first lecture on renal tubular acidosis. Myself, Dr. Shiv Prasad Mundada, Professor and Head of Department at Vilasrao Deshmukh Government Institute of Medical Sciences, Latur, Maharashtra. Today, we will learn about renal tubular acidosis. As name implies, acidosis due to pathology in renal tubule is labeled as renal tubular acidosis. In today's lecture, we will see how we define renal tubular acidosis, physiology of renal tubule because it is important to understand the pathology of it, types and causes of renal tubular acidosis, clinical features and differentiation among renal tubular acidosis, how to approach a case of renal tubular acidosis, means how to differentiate whether it's a proximal, distal or something else, and of course the treatment part of renal tubular acidosis. As such, renal tubular acidosis, when we discuss theoretically, it's easy to discuss, but when we practice, which case will behave as a renal tubular acidosis, there is no specific signs and symptoms. It may present in various conditions like failure to thrive, repeated history of dehydration, polyuria, rickets, bone disease, nephrocalcinosis, hematuria secondary to hypercalciuria. So what is required to diagnose is high index of clinical suspicion, and if we suspect, then confirmation is by blood and urine investigation. So by definition, renal tubular acidosis is a disease state characterized by normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. Very important to understand, it is a normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. As like in dehydration, it is a negative anion gap acidosis. Here it is a normal anion gap acidosis. Once we suspect acidosis in any patient, we have to look for anion gap, and that will decide whether it is RTA or this acidosis is due to some other causes. So acidosis with normal anion gap is one of the cause of renal tubular, one of the effect of a renal tubular acidosis. If a patient is seen with metabolic acidosis having normal anion gap, you should suspect RTA. Or if you see a patient with acidosis, to confirm RTA, we have to do ABG and anion gap to confirm it is a normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. So most important feature is normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. So to make it easy, acidosis due to renal tubule defect where GFR remains normal or near normal. Why it is necessary to mention? Because again, kidney failure and low GFR also causes acidosis. So according on site means the site of a defect in the tubules. According to the site and different causes in renal tubule, 4 different types have been classified. So before going to understand disease, let us understand how tubular function affect acid-base balance. Its important role in balance of sodium, potassium, calcium, phosphate, and of course water. This is a normal renal tubular physiology. As we see, proximal tubule cells and distal tubule cells are seen. The proximal tubule cells' main function is reabsorption. The tubular fluid at the level of after the glomerular filtrate is just like a plasma. No one will like the plasma should be excreted as a urine. So tubules present an important function in reabsorption of maximum solutes which are required for the body. So proximal part main function is reabsorption. Why it is important to understand? Because if it fails, the pathophysiology will be understood. If it fails, so the clinical manifestations can be understood. So what are the roles of proximal tubules is reabsorption. What are the important things which are reabsorbed? Of course, bicarbonate is important. Sodium, glucose, amino acids, phosphates, these are also absorbed. Nearly 80 to 95% of the solute are absorbed in proximal tubule and remaining 10 to 15% are absorbed in distal tubule. About sodium. What about the distal convoluting tubule? Distal tubules main function to understand it is an hydrogen ion secretion. Main function is hydrogen ion secretion. So though other functions are also there, like 10 to 15% of the sodium, 30% of the calcium and glucose are absorbed, but main function to understand present pathophysiology is hydrogen ion secretion. We will see further again about this tubular physiology. This is most important slide to understand the pathophysiology of renal tubular acidosis. If we understand this slide correctly, we can remember and understand the clinical features, the treatment, the differentiation, the approach and everything. So kidneys contribute to acid-base balance by reabsorption of filtered bicarbonate and excretion of a hydrogen ion produced every day. Hydrogen ion secretion from tubule is the key in reabsorption of the bicarbonate. What is the meaning of this? I will explain in next slide. Approximately 90% of the filtered bicarbonate is absorbed in proximal tubule and 10% in the distal segment. So if proximal tubule defect is there, then we will lose our 90% of bicarbonate. 90% of bicarbonate in the urine. Proximal tubule functions mainly reabsorption of glomerular filtrate solutes. 90% of bicarb, 60% of sodium, 100% of potassium, calcium 70% is passive absorption influenced by hormones like vitamin D, parathormone, calcitonin, and phosphate is 100%. Phosphate is 100%. Look, now if there is a defect in proximal tubule, the patient may present with any of these symptoms. Like if there is a loss of more of a phosphate, the patient will present with rickets. If there is loss of more of sodium and potassium, the patient will present with dehydration due to polyuria. And such problems are chronic, so the child will manifest with failure to thrive. Now, proximal tubule defect can be isolated or can be multiple. When we say isolated, it means only bicarb is affected, bicarb reabsorption is affected, though it's a rare chance. And multiple defect means, like in Fanconi syndrome, multiple molecule solute reabsorption defect is seen. We have seen this slide previously also, just repeating because it's important. Proximal tubule main function is reabsorption. Sodium, glucose, phosphate, potassium, calcium. Nearly 80 to 85% of all these solute are reabsorbed in proximal tubule. So defect in this will give manifestation of this solute deficiency in the body. As we have said in earlier slide, hydrogen ion plays an important key role for the reabsorption of bicarb. To understand that point, hydrogen ion plays the key role for the reabsorption of the bicarb. To understand that, this slide is important. This slide is important. What we are seeing are the one side there is a proximal tubule, and beside that there is a lumen which is having a filtered after glomerular filtrate. So whatever hydrogen ion are available in the tubule fluid, they get reacted with bicarb, and what is produced is water and CO2. Hydrogen ions are secreted in exchange of the sodium. So sodium is getting reabsorbed, hydrogen ions are secreted that get reacted with bicarb, and this bicarb again divides into water and CO2. Water get excreted, CO2 again passes in the cells, attach with the OH ion which has been liberated from the water inside the cell, and again the bicarb is produced. So this is the procedure of reabsorption of the bicarb. Bicarb is not directly reabsorbed as it is. It has to be reacted with hydrogen ions in the tubule. So hydrogen ion is the key for reabsorption of the bicarb. This procedure of reabsorption of the bicarb remains same all over the tubule. Though more part is reabsorbed in the proximal tubule, similar thing is with collecting tubules also there. Collecting tubule is also there. Now about distal tubule. Active reabsorption of sodium, calcium and secrete hydrogen ion. This is an important function. As we have discussed earlier also, secretion of hydrogen ion is the important function of the distal tubule. Urinary excretion of potassium is completely dependent on tubular secretion of potassium channels. Potassium channels means whatever potassium we see in the urine is a function of a tubular secretion. If we take to diagnose it otherwise, अगर हमें पोटेशियम ट्यूब्यूल्स में नहीं मिल रहा है, यूरिन में नहीं मिल रहा है, इसका it means that the potassium is not secreted. There is a defect with the secretion of the potassium. This potassium secreting channels are controlled by aldosterone. Factors that promote secretion are aldosterone, high flow rate of the tubule fluid and high sodium content of the lumen fluid. As we said, it is controlled by aldosterone. If there is a problem in aldosterone, it will be manifest with potassium changes. If we see low aldosterone or if we see hypofunctioning of the aldosterone, ultimately there will be no secretion or a low secretion of potassium in the urine, and that will give rise to hyperkalemia. This gives rise to our type 4 metabolic, type 4 of RTA, which present as hyperkalemic metabolic acidosis, and this is secondary to aldosterone effect, means absent or low function of aldosterone causes hyperkalemia by this mechanism. So in short, main function of distal tubule is acidification of urine, means secretion of hydrogen ion and acidification of urine. Secretion of hydrogen ion and acidification of urine. So defect in distal tubule will lead to no acidification of urine. When we say no acidification of urine, this means that in distal tubule, urine pH will be not acidic. Means distal tubule urine pH will be not acidic. And if we think of proximal tubule, distal pH, distal functions are not affected, so urine pH will be acidic. This is important feature again to understand and differentiate between proximal tubular acidosis and distal tubular acidosis. So to summarize about the physiology, proximal renal tubular acidosis means unable to reabsorb bicarb. Distal renal tubular acidosis means unable to secrete hydrogen ion. So we can easily find out that urine pH in distal will be not acidic as hydrogen ion are not secreted, and in proximal RTA it will be acidic. So to give a value to it means urine pH in distal RTA will be more than 5.5 and in proximal RTA it will be less than 5.5. Okay, let us now summarize normal renal tubular physiology so that we can understand the pathology of different RTAs in a single slide. If we understand this slide thoroughly, you can write or you can understand RTA incomplete. As we see, renal tubular acidosis is an acidosis due to proximal or distal tubule. If there is a defect in proximal tubule, the affection will be on reabsorption of this different solute. Look at these arrows. Look at these arrows. All are getting reabsorbed totally. Here is another reaction of bicarbonate. So main function is reabsorption. Similarly, if you look here in distal tubule, look here, it is an secretion of hydrogen ions, which is important. Other thing, an aldosterone effect which is seen on potassium secretion. So to understand the pathophysiology, here there will be a defect of reabsorption of bicarbonate. Here there will be a defect of hydrogen ion secretion. And if it is an aldosterone effect is seen, like in type 4, there will be defect in potassium secretion. So again, summarization of all the functions of proximal tubule. Mainly reabsorption of sodium, calcium, magnesium, bicarbonate, 100% of glucose, amino acids and potassium. And main function of distal tubule is active reabsorption of sodium and hydrogen ion secretion. Now types of RTA. Now proximal RTA, distal RTA, these are the two. In total there are 4 types: proximal RTA, distal RTA. Among distal RTA there are 2 types. One is classic and other is hyperkalemic RTA. And 4th type is combined, which will manifest as a proximal as well as distal. Proximal RTA, as the name implies, the defect is proximal renal tubule. It can be, causes can be isolated, means only reabsorption of bicarbonate is defective, or multiple tubular dysfunction can be seen, which we label it as a Fanconi syndrome. If it is isolated, it can be The causes are sporadic or autosomal dominant or autosomal recessive. If it is multiple like Fanconi syndrome, it can be inherited like dominant, recessive, X-linked, or other causes, inherited causes like cystinosis, tyrosinemia, type 1, galactosemia, Lowe syndrome, Wilson disease. Acquired causes of proximal RTA are Sjogren syndrome, hypokalemic nephropathy, myeloma, drugs like gentamicin, cisplatin, ifosfamide, sodium valproate, heavy metals like lead, mercury, cadmium, and primary hyperparathyroidism. If we think of the causes, which is important to understand, is like if it is a multiple system defect and presenting early in life, they are probably inherited causes. Distal RTA, autosomal recessive dominant or autosomal recessive with early hearing loss, autosomal recessive with later hearing loss. Again, this is important. If the RTA is presenting with hearing loss, we can label it as a distal RTA because hearing loss is not seen in any causes of proximal RTA. Connective tissue disorder like Marfan syndrome, Wilson disease, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and familial hypercalciuria. Acquired causes are SLE, interstitial nephritis, pyelonephritis, sickle cell nephropathy, any causes of obstructive uropathy, vesicourethral reflux, hepatic causes of distal RTA, drugs and toxins like amphotericin B, lithium, toluene, or cisplatin. Type 3 is combined autosomal recessive with osteopetrosis, blindness, deafness. Type 4 is hyperkalemic, like we have seen in the physiology of renal tubule. It is mainly related to aldosterone, so hypoaldosteronism, Addison's disease, pseudohypoaldosteronism type 1, pseudohypoaldosteronism type 2, and congenital adrenal hyperplasia are the inherited causes of type 4 hyperkalemic RTA. Other causes like Addison's disease, obstructive uropathy, pyelonephritis, interstitial nephritis, diabetes mellitus, sickle cell nephropathy, drugs like ACE inhibitors, because this is again acting on aldosterone, renin, angiotensin mechanism. ACE inhibitors, septran, cycloserine, prolonged heparinization are the causes of hyperkalemic type 4 renal tubular acidosis. Now we move on to clinical features. If we understand the pathophysiology and the physiology, we can predict or we can say what can be the clinical feature of a proximal RTA. Now, as we have seen, if it is isolated, if it is multiple tubular defect, the manifestation of proximal tubule will differ. In multiple tubular dysfunction, for like Fanconi syndrome, to Fanconi syndrome, there will be a cause-specific symptoms, means it is some autosomal recessive disorder, then it will have other manifestations along with RTA, like ocular abnormalities, short stature, enamel defect of teeth. In cystinosis, it will present in infancy, photophobia, hepatosplenomegaly, blonde hair. Lowe syndrome present in infancy with severe rickets, cataract, ophthalmos, hypotonia, and developmental delay. Features are, we have seen up to now clinical features of proximal RTA that are cause specific. Now, due to proximal RTA, what can be the symptoms? Feature due to proximal RTA are failure to thrive, irritability, polyuria, dehydration. Now understand, polyuria and dehydration is secondary to the sodium loss. Growth failure, rickets. Rickets is now here. Rickets is due to chronic phosphate loss in a proximal tubule, child with acidotic breathing. And as we have seen, acidification of urine is not affected in proximal tubule, so urine pH will remain less than 5.5 because urine acidification is intact. Distal RTA will present with metabolic acidosis, of course, non-anion gap means normal anion gap, growth failure. Distinguishing features is nephrocalcinosis and hypercalciuria. So distinguishing features will be nephrocalcinosis and hypercalciuria, means we have to look for urine calcium if you are suspecting for distal RTA. Acidification of urine is affected, so urine pH will be more than 5.5 if it is in distal RTA. Bone disease will be seen in distal RTA, though it is not like a rickets. Rickets is due to phosphate loss, and here bone disease is due to organic components. Bone disease is a common resulting in mobilization of organic components from bone to serve as a buffer in a case of a chronic acidosis. So it's an organic component loss which is causing the bone disease in RTA. It's a phosphate loss which is causing rickets in proximal RTA. Proximal tubular acidosis, mainly Fanconi syndrome, means multiple tubular defect present with severe disease, severe tubular dysfunction with growth failure, rickets secondary to phosphate wasting. Polyuria, polydipsia, rickets, fever, anorexia, vomiting, constipation, these are the symptoms, though non-specific, are the manifestations of a proximal tubular acidosis. Non-anion gap metabolic acidosis is the pathognomic feature of all type of acidosis in RTA. Urine pH is acidic because distal acidification process is intact. Fanconi syndrome, there will be phosphate seen in urine, amino acid will be seen in urine, glycosuria, uricosuriA, excess of sodium or potassium is also seen in urine. So this is also a differentiating feature, a case of a proximal RTA. Chronic renal failure can be a manifestation of a proximal tubular acidosis because of this losses of a solute. The phosphate and massive bicarbonate wasting. The phosphate and massive bicarbonate wasting characteristic of proximal RTA is generally absent in distal RTA. Type 4 hyperkalemic RTA, as we have seen in pathophysiology and physiology of renal tubule, the potassium secretion is aldosterone dependent. So if any defect in aldosterone, it will cause an defect in potassium metabolism. Type 4 RTA occurs as a result of impaired aldosterone. That means decreased hypoaldosteronism production or impaired renal responsiveness to the aldosterone. That is, aldosterone levels are normal but response is poor. That's we label as a pseudo hypoaldosteronism. Acidosis again results directly because of aldosterone has a direct effect on hydrogen ATPase enzymes and hydrogen ATPase channels responsible for hydrogen secretion. In addition, aldosterone is a potent stimulant for potassium secretion in collecting tubule. Consequently, lack of aldosterone results in hyperkalemia. So, acidosis with raised potassium, the acidosis is also a normal anion gap acidosis. With raised potassium, we can label it as a type 4 RTA. Present first few years of life with growth failure like polyuria, dehydration, hyperkalemia. Pyelonephritis like symptoms can be there, because pyelonephritis is one of the cause of type 4 RTA. Fever, vomiting, foul smelling urine, obstructive uropathy, hyperkalemia with non-anionic metabolic acidosis, and urine in this case can be acidic or alkaline. Inappropriately low level of urine potassium. This is important because aldosterone has an direct effect on secretion of potassium. If there is a low aldosterone or the effect of aldosterone is not there, like in pseudo, there will be a low level, inappropriately low level of urine potassium will be seen. So now how to diagnose? Up to now, if you have been attentive, it's very clear. The approach is first to diagnose whether acidosis is non-anion gap metabolic acidosis is there, and second is whether it is a proximal or a distal. First, to confirm non-anion gap metabolic acidosis, assess electrolyte abnormalities, renal function, to rule out other causes of bicarbonate loss such as diarrhea. Look for serum electrolytes, kidney functions, calcium and phosphorus. Investigation to differentiate between different types of renal tubular acidosis. In this slide, what is not mentioned is that it is an RTA, means acidosis is there, and normal anion gap acidosis is there. Now I have to differentiate between proximal and distal. So most important to remember is acidification of urine is intact in distal, so urine will be, acidification of urine is not intact in distal, so urine pH will be not acidic. It will be more than 5.5, MAC 5.5. And that in proximal tubule, acidification is intact, so urine pH will be less than 5.5. So one investigation which will differentiate between proximal and distal is urine pH. Other investigations like plasma potassium, which will be high in type 4, urine calcium, which is hypercalciuria, is a presentation as well as cause of classic RTA, is seen in distal RTA. Nephrocalcinosis is one of the differentiating feature of distal RTA, is present in classic RTA. Bone disease is common in proximal RTA, that is phosphate loss and rickets is there. In classic it is often present, that is again due to a loss of inorganic components as a chronic buffer for a chronic acidosis. So now a treatment part. As we have seen, it's an acidosis, so the main treatment remain is bicarbonate replacement. As we have seen again, that slide, pathophysiology, there is a more 90% of bicarb is lost in proximal RTA, so supplement treatment of bicarbonate more with a proximal RTA. 20 milliequivalent, that of distal RTA it is 2 to 4 milliequivalent per 24 hours. Now if it is isolated, only bicarb will be suffice. If it is multiple tubular defect like in Fanconi syndrome, may require other metabolite support, mainly phosphate supplementation, because it is bicarbonate and phosphate which are majorly lost in Fanconi syndrome. Distal RTA need to look for hypercalciuria. If symptomatic, treatment with thiazide diuretics is must. Hypercalciuria will present with hematuria, infrequent hematurias, painless. And type 4, there is hyperkalemia due to aldosterone effect. So we have to give chronic treatment for hyperkalemia. The chronic treatment for hyperkalemia is Kexlate, means a resin which we give orally as an for a treatment of hyperkalemia. Prognosis depends to a large part on the nature of existing underlying disease. Means if the disease is multi-tubular involvement or like an inherited character, the prognosis is bad. Inherited characters doesn't present only with RTA, they have other features in the body too. Patient treated for isolated RTA demonstrate improvement in the growth. If only RTA is the manifestation of any disease like isolated RTA, improvement in growth is seen if we are able to treat and if patient compile with the treatment. Patient with systemic illness and Fanconi syndrome can have ongoing morbidity with growth failure, rickets and signs and symptoms related to other to their underlying disease like cystinosis. They have effect of cystinosis all over the body that can cause different manifestation.